perform miracles, he would say yes.
如果说你问那个回教徒说这个耶稣诞生是不是一个奇迹，他会说是。
And if you ask a Muslim whether Jesus was sinless, he would say yes.
你再问他说耶稣是不是无罪的，他说是。
And this part never really made sense to me because they believe all these things about Jesus, but they decide that they're going to follow the teachings of Muhammad, even though Muhammad was a flawed man.
OK， 就算他承认刚刚我们所讲的这三样事情，可是他还是选择去相信穆罕默德。
Muhammad didn't perform any miracles.
穆罕默德没有表现任何的这个神迹出来。
He actually had, how many wives do you know did Muhammad have?
你知道说这个穆罕默德有多少个？
Does anybody know? 5.
5个吗？
He actually had up to 22 wives.
他事实上他有22个老婆。
And the youngest was 6 years old.
最小的只有6岁。
How about if you ask a Mormon who Jesus is? Obviously, Mormons believe in Jesus as well.
OK， 说大家有问过，就是这个摩门教徒是相信耶稣。
They also believe that Jesus was born by virgin birth and that Jesus was also sinless.
他们就是也相信说这个摩门教徒也相信说耶稣是是童女诞生，然后也相信这个耶稣是无罪的。
But they also believe this about Jesus.
他们也相信以下我要所讲的。
They believe that Jesus is a God, but he's not really the God.
OK， 他们相信说耶稣是神，可是不是真正最大的那个神。
The way Jesus was created was that the God had sex with his wife goddess in heaven.
OK， 好，这个就是他们就是没想到说，就是耶稣诞生的时候呢，是神在天上跟他的太太发生性关系，所以说耶稣早就诞生。
I hope I'm not going to get told by using the word sex in the pulpit here.
OK， 所以我希望说我会有任何的 trouble， 因为我刚刚用了这个word。
And so Jesus was born a man.
OK， 这个耶稣诞生在这个亚伯拉罕。伯利恒。
Now, Jesus did become a God, but he became a God by living a perfect life.
耶稣就是他就是活出神的。
And by him living a perfect life, he unlocked the ability for all of us to also become gods, as long as we live a good life.
OK， 就是耶稣基督就是他就是释放我们就是生活当中就是我们过去的种种罪，然后他让我们可以活得就是有神的荣耀。就是只要我们是活在他里面。
Mormons also believe another thing about Jesus.
就是摩门教徒，他也相信耶稣另外一个事情。
They believe that Jesus' brother is Lucifer.
OK， 他相信说耶稣是Lucifer 的哥哥。
How about if you ask a Jehovah's Witness?
有多少人问说Jehovah是证人
Has anyone ever been approached by Jehovah's Witness?
有没有就是这个有没有人就是在当中有没有接触过就是这个耶稣见证人耶和华见证人。
Yeah, they're quite persistent, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses also believe in Jesus, but they also, like Mormons, they don't believe that Jesus is the real God. That God, the real God, actually created Jesus.
就是耶和华见证他们也相信说这个耶稣是神，他不相信耶稣是真正的神，然后他不相信说耶稣是而且是神神的儿子。
Who knows? What is it? Apple F4. Okay. All right. There's one thing that's very ironic about Jehovah's Witnesses.
就是这个有件事情是就是感到讽刺的，就是在这个耶和华见证上面。
Now, one of the things about Jehovah's Witnesses is that they believe that the name Jehovah is so holy and so special that you're not allowed to call God in your name.
对，耶和华见证人他们就是说这个耶和华是非常神圣的一个名字，所以说你不可以就是把它称为神，或是叫他更多的事情。
Now, there's a story I'm going to tell you.
秀给你们了。
But in the old Hebrew text, there's actually just a string of letters. Oh, here we go. Thank you. So in old Hebrew text, basically all you have is a string of letters. There's no vowels and there's no letters. I'm sorry, no vowels and no spaces.
在过去的那个希伯来文里面，就是我们会看到，就是它只是有文字在上面。
Now you may ask, how can you read this? Well, that's just the way they read it. That's how they were used to reading their text.
就是你会问说，他们要怎么样去读这个文字？就是他们是这样去读。
So can anybody guess what this actually says? Very good. So some of these people, some people here actually. There you go. So basically, this actually comes out to if you put all the vowels and the spaces in there, it comes out to for God so loved the world. That's just the way that the Jewish people read their text.
OK， 说这个就是这个犹太人就是看他们的书的时候，就是基本上他们就是只有字母而已，可是他们没有一个字，所以说 actually 上面第一排那个字母解释出来就是for God so loved the world，就是神非常爱这个世界。
So now, what's the name for God that's used?
在这里就是神是用什么样的名字
What's that? Yahweh, right? Okay. So Yahweh in the Old Hebrew text would look like this.
雅伟在这个旧希伯来文是这样解释。
And this is called, does anybody know what the term for this is? There you go. That's tetragrammaton. That's okay, you can translate. Now, the interesting thing about the name Yahweh is that in the old Hebrew times, the Jewish people believed that the name Yahweh was so holy and so special that they would not allow their unclean lips to ever utter this name.
OK， 这雅伟就是在这个希伯来的历史当中，就是它非常的圣洁，然后我们没有办法可以这样子，我们用我们这个嘴巴的话去形容它。
So whenever they came to the word Yahweh in the text, they would substitute and say either the word Elohim, which basically is another name for God, or another word for God, or Adonai, which basically means my Lord.
OK， 就是说，在这个因为雅伟非常圣洁，所以说我们通常跟希伯来人都会用不一样的这个文字去解释它。
Now, there were no printing presses back, a couple thousand years ago.
就是在这过去几千年前，就是在印刷的时候。
So the way they replicated their scripture is basically they used scribes to copy the text.
就是说过去他们要影印的时候呢，就是说他们是用石板压在上面去写出来。
Now, over time, the Jewish people's mastery over the Hebrew language started to fade a little bit.
OK， 就是这个时间在就是一直往前进的时候，就是说这个 actually 这个希伯来文慢慢好像不是这么备受重视的。
And so the Jewish people started having problems reading stuff like this when it didn't have any vowels or spaces in it.
因为他们渐渐遗忘他们祖先就是所遗传下来的这样文字的方式，所以说慢慢的就是以后希伯来人看到就是这几个只有这个压在上面，然后就是不知道该怎么读。
So around 600 to 1000 AD, there was a special group of scribes that were called Ricky knows everything, so I forget I was asking. They were called the Masoretic scribes.
OK， 就是在这个西元660年到680年中，有本书叫这个 Scribe。
Now, what they did was they started to insert basically vowels and spaces into their scripture.
就是说他在他们书当中，就是他们开始放进去就是这个文字。
However, they still considered that the name Yahweh to be so holy that they didn't want to risk anybody by accident uttering this name onto their lips.
就是说他们还是认为说这个雅伟是非常的神圣的，他们不希望说出任何差错，就是他们说出来的话。
So what they did was when they came to the word Yahweh or YHWH, what they did was they took the vowels from Elohim or Adonai and they mixed it together and out came these two words over here.
就是把雅伟做一些变化，然后就变成前面这两个字。
So Tyndale, who was one of the original translators of the Bible into English,